So the internet has been ablaze with perhaps one of the most divisive Joe Rogan Experience podcasts to date. It's difficult to know exactly what is going on if you're just reading X, because everybody thinks their guy won. And that's exactly why I don't really care much for debates. They're entertainment. And if you're there for, entertainment purposes and you want to consume them for entertainment purposes, that's great. Yesterday was a very interesting debate between Douglas K. Murray, neoconservative, and Dave Smith. And the subject was something I deeply don't care about, and that is Israel, Gaza. So I'm not going to comment on any particular specifics between, hey, he was right about this or wrong about that with Gaza. I have a bigger problem with what seemed to be a real love for war from Douglas K. Murray, and also a lot of tone policing and seemingly being pro-censorship. I know Doug has spoken out in favor of people like Tommy before, and he's definitely gotten some things right. I don't think Dave Smith was 100% right in everything he said either. And I think, I hope that everyone leaves a like on this video and acknowledges just how brave I'm being by commenting on a podcast that happened, and I've never actually stepped foot inside of Joe Rogan's studio. Another major thing I strongly disagree with. So we're going to get into some of the most divisive moments from yesterday's podcast after a super quick word from this video sponsor, Fume. Huge shout out to this video sponsor, Fume. Look, we all have bad habits, and well, one of mine was one of those habits you're doing so well without until you're out with friends. Suddenly everyone's reaching for theirs, and the urge to just borrow one kicks in. But what if I told you there's a better alternative, something enjoyable that you can take with you anytime? Fume is an award-winning flavored air device, so there's no nicotine, no vapor, just natural flavor. It brings flavors to your mouth, not into your lungs. It fills the void of ditching a bad habit, and it's just so much better in every way. It's something you can use anywhere, 100% nicotine-free, non-toxic flavors, no batteries, no charging, and a fraction of the cost of other alternatives. I also love how it's built. It's built really nice and sturdy. You can fidget with it, you can spin it, you can do all sorts of stuff. It helps for me to just have it in my hand, and it helps me kind of make the right decision. And also remember that Fume continuously invests in third-party studies to ensure their safety of all their products. Multiple third-party toxicology reports and studies have been done on the inhalation and the digestion of plant compounds that they use in their cores, and they're committed to always funding more. Fume is backed by doctors in the United States. My favorite flavor still remains orange vanilla, but sometimes we go crisp mint. It kind of it depends on how I'm feeling for the day. But if you're ready to lose that bad habit, go to tryfume.com/quartering or scan the QR code and use code quartering to get your free Fume topper when you order your journey pack. You'll be happy you did. Yeah, shout out Fume for the sponsorship. Now, I want to start with a little bit of the kind of the tone policing stuff that I thought was really weird. So Douglas K. Murray came in hot with this.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, sir.
Since the war in Israel began, and since the war in Ukraine began, you've had quite a lot of people who are very against both in different ways.
Yes.
Do you think you've had enough people on who are supportive of either war?
I don't know that word enough, if that's a good word.
Let's say enough people who are on the side of Israel instead of wild critics.
Well, I've had a few. I mean, I believe God Sad is on the side of Israel. For sure. Jordan is on the side of Israel.
Mike Baker, Coleman Hughes.
Yeah.
Coleman did it for like 20 minutes, so it wasn't why he was here.
No.
So he's upset that he doesn't have enough pro-war people on. He names 4 or 5 people, and then Doug swears, yeah, but how many more? I mean, how many is enough?
I mean, none of them is why they're here. It's a good question.
Do you think you've tilted one way?
Me personally?
No, just with the guests you've had.
The guests? Yeah, probably more tilted towards the idea that perhaps the way they've done it is barbaric.
Mm-hmm. But why do you think that is? Just out of interest. I'm just interested in your selection of guests because you're like the world's #1 podcast.
Yeah, it's not.
By the way, what Douglas Murray here is doing is he's already made up his mind that Joe Rogan doesn't have enough pro-war guests. This clip is sped up just because we've got a lot to get through.
I don't think about it that way. I just think I'd like to talk to this person.
But Can I just?
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
it's your
sure,
show, but
sure,
I mean,
sure.
If you're going to interview historians of the conflict or historians in general, why would you get somebody like Ian Carroll or?
Yeah, but Ian Carroll, I didn't bring him on for that purpose. I brought him on because I want to find out, like, how does one get involved in the whole conspiracy theory business? Because his whole thing is just conspiracies.
Sure.
You know?
But do you have any? I mean, there's been a tilt in the conversation, both conversations, in the last couple of years, and it's largely to do with people who have appointed themselves experts who are not experts.
You mean like Ian? I don't think he appoints himself an expert in anything.
Who's that other dude who thinks he's an expert on Churchill?
Oh, Daryl Cooper does not think he's an expert.
In fact, I think it's everybody else is always calling him an expert, and he's like, I'm just a history.
Have you ever absorbed any of his material? Have you ever consumed any of his podcasts or anything like that?
I've tried.
Yeah?
It's pretty hard to listen to somebody who says, I don't know what I'm talking about, but now I'm going to talk. Or I don't know about this. Or I'm not capable of debating this historian, but I'm going to just tell you what I think.
Yeah, but that's not
I think that's a
exactly
little bit out of
what
context.
Daryl was saying. I mean, Daryl's point of view, however,
By the way, I'll stop him there. There's nothing wrong with that. The idea this guy has like a really goofball position of you're not allowed to talk about anything unless you're an expert on it. Well, I'm pretty sure we had a lot of experts telling us to put face diapers on just a few years ago. And then a lot of other experts telling us that we should be wearing 2 face diapers. And then a bunch of other experts who told us everyone needed to get this or that put in their body or whatever. And there's, I mean, who exactly determines who an expert is, except for the people who are saying they're an expert. And again, Douglas Murray might be 100% correct about the history of what's going on between Israel and Palestine. But when your opinion is this trash about who can have an opinion on something, it was really hard for me to kind of even want to listen to you. You know what I mean? Listen to this take.
that like you're saying I claim to be an expert, but then I have like a parachute to get out of it by being like, hey, I'm just a comedian who's just saying this.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever like really claimed to be an expert. I
Why
have
are you
opinions
going around?
on things.
I know, but but
Because
if
I'm
you're
interested in
not-
these topics.
Yeah, I know, but isn't it weird to go around, for instance, as
Isn't it weird to talk about something that you aren't an expert? But again, I don't know who determines who's an expert, but apparently Douglas K. Murray does. Has this guy ever been to a pub? So when we were doing the operation, the ridiculous war with Iraq, in Afghanistan, right? And you went to the bar, everybody was talking about it. Are they not allowed to talk about it because they're not experts on war? This is the same dumb. There's a smarter person than me will know the exact term for it. Is it an appeal to authority? There's some like logical fallacy thing here where like, you know, when athletes get butthurt that like a journalist critiques them and they say, well, you never played the game, so you don't know. That's such a lame cop-out. And again, I'm just saying Douglas K. Murray might be an awesome guy. I'm just critiquing these two positions that he has, which I disagree with. I can't agree or disagree with his positions on Israel or Gaza because, as you guys all know, I don't care. I don't want America involved in either one of them. Let them fight it out. Ben Shapiro told me Israel can defend herself, so let her do it.
I mean, let's get to the last year and a half. It's a bit weird to be simultaneously saying I'm not an expert on a conflict and talking about it everywhere.
No, it's
I
not.
don't think so. Not really. I mean, I don't know. I don't think like
I don't know.
I don't see how you
Do
can't
you
have an
talk
opinion
about
on
these things?
Which things?
All these things that we're talking about.
Some of them, yeah.
Are you an expert
I am on some, yes.
on some?
But
But
you talk
not.
about some that
But
you're not
some
an
are
expert on.
You'll
Right,
notice
so
that
what
I
you-
Yeah. Oh, look at that dodge. Quite the dodge.
Do
I
you
mean, have an
talk
opinion
about
on
these things?
Which things?
All these things that we're talking about.
Some of them, yeah.
Are you an expert
I am on some, yes.
on some?
But
But
you talk
not.
about some that
But
you're not
some
an
are
expert on.
You'll
Right,
notice
so
that I
what should you
didn't
do?
just. You'll
What
no-
should you do if those subjects get
Is it-
breached?
Well, I think that you educate yourself as much as you
Shouldn't
can.
you say I'm not an expert and then give
Right.
your
It
opinion if
depends.
you're in the middle of a conversation?
I think it's, as I say, I think that it's a weird move to say, I'm not an expert on this, but I'm going to talk about it nonstop. I think
It's not a weird move. I'm not an expert in, serial monsters, but I'm very interested in them. You want to talk about BTK or Dahmer or any of these things? I could talk about them for hours. Will I get specific details wrong? Almost certainly. But what Douglas K. Murray appears to be saying here is that he's not allowed, you're not allowed to talk about it unless you've been there. In fact, he scolds Joe Rogan for having the wrong people on his show.
You feel about this? What Daryl's saying is he doesn't really like doing debates. He likes to do long format stuff where he can really explain.
He also had this take. I wanted to see if I could find this, where he literally says the lefty thing, where he's like, "You're platforming people that I don't like." He said that to Joe Rogan. He's like, "Here."
I'm saying, just as the left likes to play with very dark, ugly stuff, and they've done it for decades, they have played down Chairman Mao's murder of the Chinese.
And
that's not the clip I was looking for. Here's a whole article on it from Newsweek. Joe Rogan gets called out on his own podcast. Again, this was a guy who talks for a living getting told by another guy who he's allowed to bring on his show. I don't agree with that. Now, again, just so everyone knows, I don't have any problem with Douglas K. Murray. Or Dave Smith. I think they both said things that were right in this and said things that were wrong. But when you start going down this path about trusted experts and appeals to authority, this one is perhaps the most cringe moment. So here, and then the left is celebrating this. It's a lot of people with like Israeli flags in their bio that are celebrating this. Again, I don't know. There's plenty of people that are Jewish that are against this war, like Glenn Greenwald too, which I'll show you in a sec.
There was no deficit of goods coming in. I've been plenty of times.
There was no deficit?
No, there are
no
plenty
goods were kept out.
There are plenty. How many? Have you been to the crossing points?
No.
When were you last there at all?
I've never been.
You've never been?
Well, am I not allowed to talk about it now? Have you ever been to Nazi Germany? Are you allowed to have feelings about them?
You can't time travel, but you can.
Right.
But you can travel.
Okay, but so what? So what's the point? Like,
no,
okay.
I find that
lots of people have been there and agree with me, and lots of people have been there and agree with you.
Yeah, but
so
if
I don't
you're
know
going to
what
spend a year and a half talking about a place, you should at least do the courtesy of visiting it.
Why? Why does that matter? First of all, who would want to go to Palestine? I'm not trying to get blown up.
All right. I just think this is a non-argument.
You don't?
It is a non-argument.
No, I think it's a non-argument.
But if you're an expert,
you have to go and touch the ground.
No, I think you have to see. I think it's a good idea to see stuff, particularly if you spend a career talking about something. Yeah.
Dave Smith has not spent his career talking about it.
I have a journalistic rule of trying never to talk about a country even in passing unless I've at least been there.
Okay.
It's a sort of normal. It's a normal thing to do.
No, it isn't. It's total. Then I don't ever want to hear anybody in the UK say anything about America. I mean, what is this like? I don't even understand.
You're talking about crossing points. And not only have you never been to a crossing point in either Egypt or in Israel, but you've never even been to the region.
So?
Okay. Again, I think this is a non-argument. I don't understand.
No, it's not a non-argument.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a non-argument if you're insisting that you're an expert of some kind, or not claiming you're an expert, but still talking about it, about the provisions going into Gaza or not. It
really seems like his whole thing here is he's gatekeeping who's allowed to talk about this. You know, like the fact that you have to have been there is stupid. That's just gatekeeping. I don't want to go there. I guess Douglas K. Murray better not have anything to say about the Chinese tariffs.
What was it, 30 plus hours?
So what? 30 plus hours of podcasting. You do that in a week. I mean,
but it's a very different thing.
It's a very different thing. He's not doing a podcast like talking to people.
Okay, nor is he doing scholarly work, nor is he working in the archives clearly. Come on. I mean, he is not the historian of our era.
He's not complaining.
He never said that.
This is the thing, Joe. This is like punching jelly.
No, but you don't consume his work.
What I'm saying, because I don't need to consume endless versions of a revisionist history. I understand.
But it's not
revisionist
revisionist history. If you listen to his work, it's not revisionist history.
So basically what Douglas K. Murray is saying, I've never even listened to this guy, but because he wasn't, I don't know, because he doesn't work in the archives, he's automatically he doesn't even bother listening
basing
to
it
him.
on historical
But
work.
I know. But okay, so this is my point about Jelly. It's a shape-shifting thing. Comedian or historian?
Why
He's
do you
not
have
a
to?
comedian.
Historian or podcast? Would-be historian or actual historian? You say he doesn't claim to be a historian, but he's pumping out tens of hours of
Well, neither
history.
does Dan
So
Carlin.
what?
He doesn't claim to be a historian either.
You see my point about the move. It's like some weird jujitsu move.
No, I don't-
Where you say, hang on, you know all about this as well. You say, I'm...
So look, the fact that this is like a thing, right, is very weird to me. Douglas K. Murray may be 100% right about Israel, and Dave Smith might be 100% wrong about Palestine, but Dave Smith is not saying who can and who can't talk about it. And so I'm automatically positioned against Douglas K. Murray, who may have many valid points. The idea, I mean, we're talking about the internet age. This might have been valid in the, 1000 AD when you have no idea at all. But I watched October 7th live on the internet. Did I have to be there to see it happen? No, they live streamed it. It's just so he's so arrogant and dismissive that he may have extremely valid points, and he might, but I just don't care. That's the problem with Douglas K. Murray, and I hope that he would consider backing down a little bit on his elitism and the fact that he doesn't control who can and who can't talk about it. That's ridiculous.